Valerie Vieira, Chief Executive Officer, Jamaica Business Development Corporation, JBDC. Her Excellency, Marianne Van Steen, Head of Delegation of the European Union to Jamaica. Mr. Daniel Best, Director, Projects Department, Caribbean Development Bank. Mr. Desmond John, Director, Development Corporation, CARIFORUM Directorate, CARICOM Secretariat. Ms. Ivy Gordon, Director, Jeffreytown Farmers Association in Jamaica, other government representatives, other specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am Suzette Campbell, JBDC's Corporate Communications Manager and your host. Thank you all for joining us as we launch the EPA and CSME Standby Facility for Capacity Building's second Jamaican project entitled Increasing Export Capacity of Micro and Small Agro-Processors Using the Cluster Approach. Launched last year, the Standby Facility is a pool of funds in excess of 8 million euros available to 15 CARIFORUM countries managed by the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB. This allocation from the 11th European Development Fund from the 11th European Development Fund is accessible to trade-related organizations in Jamaica, 6 OECS member states, Barbados, the Dominican Republic, Guyana, Haiti, the Bahamas, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago for the implementation of activities focused on improving economies and lives of citizens. The facility was born out of a partnership with the EU and several development partners, including CARICOM and CARIFORUM, to exploit opportunities in the trade sector and increase market penetration in the region and Europe. Beyond this objective, it is anticipated that support from the Standby Facility will deepen the interconnectivity of Caribbean economies, enable greater exploitation of the CARICOM single market and economy, and increase access to and use of regional public goods. The regional institution overseeing this exercise is the CDB. As manager of the Standby Facility, CDB has a unique role championing an initiative intended to strengthen regional cooperation and integration. To share with you the bank's perspective on the project we are launching today, here is Mr. Daniel Best, Director, Projects Department at CDB.
The Honorable Norman Dunn, Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Jamaica. Her Excellency, Marianne Van Steen, Head Delegation of the European Union to Jamaica. Mr. Desmond John, Director, Development Corporation, CARIFORUM Directorate, CARICOM Secretariat. Ms. Ivy Gordon, Director, Jeffreytown Farmers Association. Government representatives, other specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And I bring you greetings on behalf of the President and management of the Caribbean Development Bank. Welcome to this, the launch of the Increasing the Export Capacity of Micro and Small Agro-Processors Using the Cluster Approach project, which is being funded by the Economic Partnership Agreement and CARICOM Single Market and Economy Standby Facility for Capacity Building, managed by the Caribbean Development Bank. This is the second Standby Facility project being implemented with support from the CDB. I extend congratulations to the Government of Jamaica for the keen interest in the facility and also for optimizing resources made available by the European Union for trade-related projects. Special thanks are extended to our long-standing development partners at the EU for supporting another initiative intended to not only improve trade, but the lives and livelihoods of citizens. CDB is pleased to commence this initiative, which serves to benefit both agro-processing and manufacturing, and which, through an inclusive framework, incorporates a program of gender equality. The current circumstances have exposed vulnerabilities in trade and food security globally and highlighted the dangers of the region's persistent over-reliance on tourism. Although devastating, COVID-19 has created a unique opportunity for governments to focus and accelerate growth by forging innovative synergies and strategies. The bank, throughout the pandemic, has sought to be responsive and shape mechanisms which have assisted our member countries during a most challenging period. This activity, with linkages to the first country project being implemented by a partner agency, the National Certification Body of Jamaica, seeks to improve the quality of the country's exports through capacity enhancement and knowledge sharing. The proposed cluster approach, which leverages relationships of those along the agriculture value chain, will capitalize on opportunities in agriculture and agro-processing to benefit the whole. Beyond capacity, the system will increase economic dividends in exports, access to things Jamaican, and the quality of items produced. Its gender focus ensures women benefit, and the symbiosis augurs well for the farmer, the agro-processor, the exporter, business, and the government. The bank, through its agricultural strategy and policy, has channeled resources to agriculture, seeking to improve both the enabling environment and infrastructure and encourage greater efficiency along agriculture value chains. These are intended to create a more competitive sector with improved productivity and market linkages, contribute to a greater sustainability, better use of resources, improved resilience against natural and economic shocks, and foster greater inclusion. This vision is tied to transforming the Caribbean's agri-food system to ensure citizens can yield higher incomes and access greater employment opportunities, including the disadvantaged women and youth within agriculture. COVID-19 has challenged the region to assess the capabilities of current agricultural systems and whether they sufficiently stimulate or support trade. As victims of an ongoing global pandemic which has thwarted plans, projections, and performance of states and industries alike, the challenge remains adopting new strategies for economic survival. We need, therefore, to innovate, to not only survive, but thrive. Studies have shown that in Latin America and the Caribbean, micro, small, and medium enterprises are expecting and experiencing significant losses, as critical components of the economy require urgent revival. In the Caribbean, MSMEs comprise the largest segment of the private sector. The bank, beyond immediate support to affected entrepreneurs through the Caribbean Technological Consultancy Services Network, has approved variations in terms and conditions to loans to development finance institutions in several countries to provide working capital support to existing enterprises for other than long-term inventory investments. Additionally, in partnership with Caribbean Export, CDB has allocated US $600,000 to MSMEs in 14 countries, including Jamaica, as part of the COVID-19 Recovery Response Direct Support Grant Program. It is undisputed that those at the fringes have been ravaged by the impact of the health, economic, and social implications of the sustained slowdown. Research conducted by the Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations and CARICOM indicates that nearly 2/3 of persons faced job loss or income reductions, with the lowest income households most impacted. At the same time, many involved in trade or business reported changes in income levels because of COVID and associated restrictions. The World Trade Organization has also reported that trade in all forms has been adversely affected by the pandemic, scaling back production and consumption through a complex network of both supply and demand shocks. Attainment of sustainable development targets has been further derailed, more so in the developing than developed world. Relatedly, UN Women projects that the pandemic's economic impact on women will likely be greater due to their prevalence in the informal sector, and in those most affected by the virus. Their presence in jobs requiring face-to-face interaction and the increased care burden at home reduces both their time and availability for economic activities. We are pleased, therefore, that responses to gender disparities have been embedded into the current project architecture. The desire for increased economic opportunities and participation of women in agriculture, agro-processing, and enterprise are reflected not only in the bank's agriculture policy, but its gender policy and strategy. Both advocate for and seek to mainstream gender in the organization's projects. COVID-19's disproportionate effect on food supply chains in a region which imports the majority of its products and inputs presents an exceptional risk to the agribusiness sector. In the wider region, there has been a noted reduction in demand for exports, which has affected value chains. A study by CARICOM has confirmed that the crisis has also brought to greater prominence the need to strengthen Caribbean food systems from production to marketing to transportation to consumption. On the trade side, both services and goods have been impacted. While the WTO reports that agricultural trade was the least affected globally and trade in services recorded significant declines, opportunities in digital trade and electronic commerce abound. This, coupled with the strong Jamaica brand now being promoted by this project and recent access to Amazon, present limitless opportunities for indigenous manufactured products to trade in the region and beyond. As advanced by the WTO, it is a firmly held belief that the shift to digital trade could overcome traditional barriers to cross-border trade for women and the poor, if appropriate policy and capacity building actions are taken. You are encouraged, therefore, to maximize these options. Ladies and gentlemen, recognizing the nexus between trade, GDP growth, and poverty reduction, the bank remains committed to supporting the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. This project advances SDGs 9 and 12. These seek to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, foster innovation, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns, and also assist and accelerate economic development through planning, program development, and institutional support. Today, we are extremely pleased to launch a project intended to address these areas, build infrastructure and capacity, increase the economic participation and opportunities of those in agriculture, especially women, while also contributing to post-COVID-19 recovery. We are appreciative of the EU and the JBDC for partnering with us to make this a reality. We anticipate an impactful project and validation of a model which can be scaled and replicated. All the best to you, to the implementation team at JBDC, as you work to achieve each project milestone and indeed a successful completion. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you. The Honorable Norman Dunn.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel was about to give us an encore, but time won't permit. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been hearing about the EPA and CSME standby facility for capacity building. This is its second iteration. Please sit back and enjoy this short video as we introduce the standby facility managed by CDB.
A new standby facility, financed by the European Development Fund, EDF, and implemented by the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, is underway. This regional program is designed to substantively improve citizens' lives and livelihoods by enhancing trade. The standby facility targets 15 Caribbean states with €8.75 million in funds. Whether producers or service providers, customers or employees in any sector, we are involved in trade. Trade is at the heart of our economies. It is part of our development DNA. Join us as we explore how the Standby Facility, the European Union and the CDB are supporting cooperation, the integration of regional economies, and improving our business environment by assisting governments, enterprises, and support entities. The Standby Facility, transforming lives through trade.
All right, thank you. We at JBDC are pleased to be partnering with CDB and the EU to strengthen our MSMEs and increase our capabilities to support our clients. To share JBDC's perspective is one who has achieved much through partnerships with government and private entities, one who we love to call the mother of all Jamaican MSMEs, our CEO, Ms. Valerie Vieira, CD.
Thank you so much, Suzette. And all protocols have been observed. And I really want to share the fact that at JBDC, since the pandemic visited with us, that we have been working under some concepts that have given us the strength and our plans to move forward. One was to move from panic to passion. And the initial reaction when the pandemic came was, oh my goodness, the end of the world is here. We said, look, after that moment of panic, let's fall in love again with our business and see how we can use this period to re-energize, refocus, rebuild, and to work with the concepts of resilience and recovery. And that has been our mantra, pushing forward since the commencement of this visitation. And we're happy to say this morning that it is working. And we will see it in this group and in this project that it is in fact working. And I really want to thank on behalf of Team JBDC and our clients. And I know later on, and there's no gender issue because we have a female farmer who will represent that group. But we want to thank the EU and the CDB very much for partnering with us in providing support for realizing opportunities for product and process development, which is, for JBDC, this is near to our hearts. It's our reason for being. And so it is important when we have these relationships that they really provide the exciting outcomes that Mr. Best spoke of earlier. Now, JBDC is celebrating our 20th anniversary this month. And I want to say that from day one, long before it was sexy and exciting to talk about clusters, this is a concept that we embraced and we engaged in implementing because we saw this as the key to opening the opportunities for our client group. And it was the most efficient way to bring micro, small, and medium to the table. We definitely believe in inclusive development, and this is part of the framework that can facilitate that process. And in fact, we use a simple concept of the puzzle, the puzzle, and each piece of that puzzle is important in making the picture whole. And we said that was the key. We had the key on the lock from day one. As I said, long before it was, the buzzword about clusters, it was our way of seeing how we can bring our sector to life, and not only to life, but moving forward and really taking its place at the table of discussion for us as a group, MSMEs, JBDC, to be speaking with our policymakers rather than people speaking for the sector. That is all inclusive and that this is the way forward. Now, from day one, we demonstrated our commitment because we have established our cluster brands. Things Jamaica, which is our main marketing and our brand, is about bringing together micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. And we have more than 500 probably 600 by now, producers of all sizes, clustered under different brands within our major Things Jamaica brand. So we have Jamaica Harvest, which focuses on our specialty foods. We have Spa Jamaica, which is our wellness. We have Barnyard Jamaica, which is gift and craft. And we have a number of others that we cluster our clients. What it does is facilitate micro being part of the process. And we speak about sustainability and supply and value chain management. And what is important in this project is that we are not doing random or fragmented processes. And I know in many instances, people think of projects, we think of programs at JBDC, but project has a life. And we talk about growth, that means continuous improvement. So we talk about programs as JBDC. So I know Ambassador is listening and Mr. Best, that this is a part, an element of a program. It means that, you know, more to come. This is the beginning of brighter days. But certainly, this project is different in that it brings together all the links in that supply chain. And when we say JBDC from concept to market and all the in between, this is what we're speaking about. So that if you focus on the producers and there is no raw material at base, you're going to have problems. So every link in that supply chain is critical. And this program is geared at strengthening each link to ensure that the chain is strong to deliver. And gender, we definitely support that. Not only gender, we support youth involvement. So we are focusing also ensuring that the youth is part of this process. They tend to bring innovation, which we must have if we're going to talk about growth of the sector. So it's important. So sustainability is key and growth. And in that, the cluster approach is just the excellent channel for that. But in our experience, again, it's nice to talk about the chain, but we need to recognize that people just don't come together in a cluster because it sounds good. Our experience suggests that there's a lot of work that a JBDC has been doing and must do in this project, and we are committed to that. The people in the cluster must be speaking the same language. They must have the same understanding. They must have the same commitment to the final output. If that is not there, there is always going to be a problem. And this is the kind of work that a JBDC does, making the language in the cluster universal, making the commitment universal to the group, making each step understand that to get into market, each one is important in that process. So we have to do that back office job, and we are committed. We know along the journey there are bumps and so on, but that's what the cluster is about. One or two might drop out, we hope not, but it means you can always bring in a new entrant as necessary so that the cluster can move forward. So we are very much committed to doing that back office job. This is what we are set up to do, and that's what we are committed to doing. Now, I know e-commerce is a new excitement and it's in the moment and so on, but we will share and continue to share with our clients that once you talk about global market, which is what we are working with, it means that there are some responsibilities that go with that opportunity. You have to ensure, and we are there to support you, as I said, that you have your intellectual property properly protected because you are in the global space, that your business model is strong and resilient to get some knocks. And it's not only COVID that knock it out. There are many other issues that come to the table that give you some shocks. How do you build the business model to take account of those shocks? How do you build in sustainability? So even another generation within your own family can keep the business going forward. And these are issues that you have to address when you talk about the excitement of going to e-commerce. E-commerce has a lot of backroom work that has to be done before you go global. you need to have your logistics in place. You can't go on with 12 nice products on the market, you look beautiful, you get an order, then you hear there's no raw material to fulfill the order, etc., etc. So this is the kind of work, important work, that's built into this project. And that's why we know it's a good thing. We know it's an excellent, excellent opportunity for agribusiness, micro, small, to move forward. And we are committed to the process. My team is excited. We have all ages and all genders represented. So we are an example of what we want to see reflected in the clusters. And we know it's hard work. And we must appreciate the effort that our partners are providing in terms of funding and support, technical support, and to ensure that at the end of the day, all of us can say, job well done, success, growth is happening, and that it confirms that the sector, which, as Suzette says, near and dear to my heart, that this sector has its place in the GDP. We can, will, and are contributing to the development of economic growth in our country, but with the proper support and the framework, then we can do even more. And this project is definitely a great, great opportunity to demonstrate that this is possible and that it can happen and will happen. So Team JBDC is excited, we're ready to go, and we're looking forward to an exciting journey. Whatever the bumps are, we use those as just some little conditioning to move forward, jump to the next mountain. And we have young people on the staff so they can climb mountains, the ones that I can't climb. But we're getting along and we're so excited. And we know we are committed and we promise really that this project is going to achieve absolute success. So that I know the EU and CDB halfway through will be saying to us, what is the next sector that you want us to work with you about? And we're ready for that too. Thank you so much. And looking forward to an exciting journey with our participants.
And you can hear the passion and the commitment in her words and her voice. And this is why she carries the national title, Commander of Distinction, for her many years of service to the MSME sector and the government of Jamaica. Thank you very much, Ms. Vieira, for your invaluable insight. We will indeed be making every effort to ensure this project enriches our stakeholders. Speaking of stakeholders, this morning we are joined by one and a mainstay in community-based initiatives. As a matter of fact, I looked at her just now and I got hungry. Ladies and gentlemen, as you have noted, the project is set to impact our agriculture sector. This lady has a brand with some nice puddings. Miss Ivy Gordon is here today on behalf of the Jeffreytown Farmers Association in the parish of St. Mary to endorse this project. I see Minister nodding his head because we all know St. Mary may come from.
That's right.
The Honorable Dr. Norman Don, Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, European Union Head of Delegation, Her Excellency Marianne Van Steer, Desmond John, Director, Development Corporation Unit, CARIFORM Directorate, CARICOM Secretariat, Ms. Vieira, Chief Executive Officer of the JBDC, and other dignitaries and guests. It's my pleasure to be here with you this morning and to wish you happy birthday and to say to you that our Jeffreytown Farmers was 30 years old last month. I'm a director of Jeffreytown Farmers Association, a small rural group of farmers who operate on the basis of a social enterprise. We undertake environmental projects for our community. We run a small radio station, Jet FM 88.7, and we promote and work towards climate change, adaptation, and disaster risk reduction. And we have been recognized both locally and internationally for our efforts. I lead Jettown Products, which is the women's group within the Farmers Association. We are the agro-processing business that generates most of the income to support the association itself. We make flour from our local starches, And I brought along a sample of the mixes we make. So you'll be able to see and even take home one because there are a few of us here. So the bag is big enough for everyone to get something that we make. So we make sweet potato pudding mix, plantain porridge mix, and a dumpling mix, all of which are gluten-free because they're made from the things that grow here in Jamaica. I'm happy to report that we employ 7 women part-time and that we're making a modest profit. We are compliant with both the Government of Jamaica Tax and Companies Office. And I would digress and say to you that as you build us in this project, the compliance issue needs help. It was really difficult to be compliant. I'm here today to represent the beneficiaries of the project, increasing the export capacity of micro and small agro-processors through the cluster approach. But I should tell you that our relationship with JBDC goes back as far as 2005, 2006, when we were in our early development process. Our more recent help has come in the form of technical assistance to help us get our premises ready for certification, updating our labels, and access to markets through the very Things Jamaica store that you were talking about. We have, along with other beneficiaries, we hope now, along with other beneficiaries, we can vastly expand our sales of our products. As clustered together, we are better able to meet the volumes required for export. As an agro-processor, I look forward to the opportunities to come, and I know our primary producers do too. On a personal note, I would add that we need help with distribution here in Jamaica too. Jamaica needs as many of us as possible to be producing and exporting to improve our economy, even though we realize that access to money for infrastructure for small enterprises is difficult. And even if we can access those funds, the cost of that money is often more than the profit margins that we operate our businesses on. This project bridges the gap and will fill a critical need. It's indeed my privilege to represent the beneficiaries today, and it's my expectation that when this project is complete, we'll be a large group of beneficiaries, standing here expressing our thanks and telling you how our hopes and dreams for our businesses have been met, about our expansions, our sustainability, and how collectively we are better able to contribute to the development of our country, Jamaica. Thank you.
Sincerest thanks, Ms. Gordon. In mentioning key stakeholders, CARICOM and CARIFORUM are integral to this project. Mr. Desmond John, Director, Development Corporation, CARIFORUM Directorate at the CARICOM Secretariat, joins us to share some insight on the regional agenda and the significance of Jamaica's project in this regard.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Norman Dunn, Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce of Jamaica, Her Excellency Marianne Van Steen, Head, Delegation of the European Union to Jamaica, Mr. Daniel Best, Director, Projects Department, Caribbean Development Bank, Ms. Ivy Gordon, Director, Jeffrey Town Farmers Association, government representatives, other specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Yes, it's still morning. Good afternoon, I think it is, in Jamaica. Still morning in the Eastern Caribbean. I bring greetings to you from the CARIFORUM Directorate of the CARICOM Secretariat. You recall 4 months ago, just about 4 months ago, we celebrated the launch of a project to expand certification services by the National Certification Services of Jamaica, with emphasis on food safety management systems. Today, we are launching increasing the export capacity of micro and small agro-processors using the cluster approach project, which, as we already know, is being funded by the EPA and the CSME standby facility for capacity building. This project will improve the quality of Jamaica's exports through capacity enhancement and the sharing of knowledge. But what strikes to the heart in this project is the cluster approach that it takes. Because the cluster approach allows farmers to share their resources for production and to engage in collective marketing, among other things. But the benefit of this is that the farmers will be able to to receive better prices for the products. They will be better placed to access markets and to maintain market presence. And they'll also have better opportunities for financing, which we know is very scarce and hard to receive, as well as receive support for marketing. But as we observe that within 4 months, there are 2 launches of capacity building projects in Jamaica that targets the agricultural sector, is testimony to the potential for enhanced agricultural development and agricultural trade in Jamaica, which at the end of the day will bring benefits in particular to the agricultural producers and agricultural operators that will renown in increases in their incomes, improvement in their livelihoods, and ultimately the reduction in rural poverty. But while this project is situated within the EU CARIFORUM EPA, its potential impacts extend well beyond, to include the CARIFORUM UK trade, and it will also enhance opportunities for agricultural trade within the context of the new EU Organization of African, Caribbean, Pacific States Partnership Agreement, as we call it, the post-Cotonou Agreement, if you will call it that. But specifically, it will also provide opportunities within the context of the soon to be finalized Caribbean Multi-Annual Indicative Program 2021-2027, which will be supported, of course, by the European Union. So the CARIFORUM Directorate is very pleased indeed to be associated with this project. And we take this opportunity to applaud Jamaica for its work in supporting its micro and small agricultural producers. Colleagues, we are implementing this project at a time when Caribbean countries, including Jamaica, are reeling from the devastating effects of COVID-19 on their economies. The pandemic has resulted in an unprecedented demand shock to the agri-food system throughout the Caribbean. We saw the collapse of the tourism sector, essentially. with travel being non-existent, literally. And the imposition of COVID-19 protocols having devastating impacts on agri-food and related services, creating disruptions in agricultural markets and resulting in significant job losses. But the pandemic did something that perhaps fate meant that it should be done. In that the pandemic laid bare the over-reliance of our economies on tourism. And it highlighted the need for economic diversification and specifically for improved investment in the agricultural sector. So the pandemic presented an opportunity to strengthen our agri-food systems to cope with future market disruptions of the type that we have seen. In response to the devastation of regional economies as a result of COVID-19, and in particular to the agricultural sector, CARICOM agricultural ministers approved a COVID-19 Agri-Food Action Plan. And the COVID-19 Agri-Food Action Plan attempts to strengthen the agri-food system and to build sustainability in agriculture. One of the priority interventions in that action plan is to build capacity of agri-food producers and the processors to achieve improved productivity and profitability by providing technical support to them using modern models of delivery to support capacity enhancement of the value chain actors. So what we see is that the launch of this project today, which supports the achievement of the objective of the COVID-19 Agri-Food Action Plan that I've just mentioned. And this launch is extremely timely. The CARIFORM Directorate is pleased that the project is gender focused, as it assures women benefit equally. And the Directorate was expressing a concern of youth involvement. So I am extremely pleased to have heard Ms. Vieira speak to the fact that youth are integral to the project. And we want to express our pleasure with that. Now, as our region and even the world continues to face the ravages and the fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic, the opportunities for trade between the Caribbean and the rest of the world still remain. As we speak, the Directorate is working with the European Union and our CARIFORUM states to finalize the 2021 Caribbean Multi-Annual Indicative Program, which will provide resources to develop and to advance Caribbean development. We are also negotiating a United Kingdom CARIFORUM Trade Partnership Program following the conclusion of the United Kingdom CARIFORUM EPA. So as we move to rebuild our economies, including our agricultural sector, we will all hands must be on deck. We need collective efforts. We believe that the objective of strengthening Caribbean economies and advancing towards integration into the world economy is still alive. It's not dead. But we recognize that it's probably going to be a little bit challenging. But we contend that if we learn the lessons of COVID-19, and if we incorporate those lessons in our post-COVID-19 development plan, we can overcome the challenges that our economies face. And we will see that our micro and small agricultural producers, such as the Jeffrey Town Farmers Association, will improve their livelihoods. We take this opportunity to thank our long-standing development partner, the European Union, for its continuous support to the achievement of the development priorities of CARIFORUM states in general, and to this project in particular. We express our appreciation to the Caribbean Development Bank for its leadership on this project and its usual support for Caribbean development. I've been very pleased with the comments of Ms. Vieira, and so we applaud and recognize the support that the Jamaica Business Development Corporation is giving to this project and the work that they have been doing in advancing the agricultural sector in Jamaica. We take pride in recognizing the Jeffrey Town Farmers Association. And I listened carefully to Ms. Gordon's deliberation, and it is evident that the Jeffrey Town Farmers Association appears to be a model for other associations, even outside of Jamaica, to follow. So we are very heartened to know that we have an association like the Jeffrey Town Farmers Association, as representatives of the beneficiaries of this project. We take note of the expectations of the beneficiaries as expressed by the representative, but we are confident that those expectations will be met, and we at CARIFORUM will be happy to learn of the results of this project and the impacts of this initiative. Finally, to every person who would have contributed in one way or another to this launch, please accept our heartfelt thanks. And with that, I wish to thank you and look forward to a very successful project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. John. JBDC has produced a short video which introduces the project to the general public. We invite you to view that with us now.
The Jamaica Business Development Corporation is a proud beneficiary of financing from a new EPA and CSME standby facility funded by the European Union and managed by the Caribbean Development Bank. Our latest project, increasing the export capacity of micro and small agro-processors using the cluster approach, is focused on strengthening and developing MSMEs in agriculture. Over the next 2 years, our food incubator in Kingston will be retrofitted to international standards to enable the high-quality production of Jamaica Harvest and other cluster brands. Through improved knowledge, good agricultural practices, equipment, and packaging, our producers will have enhanced access to local and international markets, contributing to the sustainable development of our economy. Visit www.jbdc.net for details. JBDC, from concept to market.
The support of the European Union, which is financing all standby facility projects, cannot be overemphasized. Ambassador Marian Van Steen, head of delegation of the European Union to Jamaica and a major strategic partner, will now address us. Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Suzette. Let me, before making my introductory words, acknowledge the Honorable Minister, Norman Dunn, Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, and also acknowledge the two directors whom we have heard, Director in the CARICOM Secretariat, that is Director John, and Director Best from the Caribbean Development Bank. Also, for sure, the lady in the room, Chief Executive Officer. It was very nice on your words, and I'm very glad that we meet here. And I'm also in particular very happy to meet you, Mrs. Ivy Gordon, as a direct beneficiary of this project and representing the Jeffreytown Farmers Association. I would also like to greet everyone who is connected online for this important launch of the project, which is called, it has quite a name, Increasing the Export Capacity of Micro and Small Agro-Processors Using the Cluster Approach. I'm actually very pleased to be here. It is the second project that we are seeing here in Jamaica, financed by the standby facility. And as far as I'm concerned, that deserves congratulations, in particular to the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, because it's only by being proactive and presenting good projects that you can actually have access to these funds. So congratulations, I'm very happy and very proud that in Jamaica we have 2 projects now under the standby facility. Ladies and gentlemen, the launch of the current project demonstrates the continued commitment of the European Union to enhance the export capacity of micro and small agro-processors in Jamaica and to improve the access to local and international markets for Jamaican food producers. It has been mentioned several times, but the timing of this project is very important, and I don't think I have to repeat it, but indeed the economic fallout of the current pandemic makes it all the more important that we can go ahead with this project now as soon as possible. I very much liked the positive way of presenting things by Ms. Vera to talk about building back better, which is also a motto that we support, and also Mr. John, who was actually talking about an opportunity. So it's always good to turn challenges into opportunities, and I have noted that with high satisfaction. The project that the European Union is supporting has value of 200,000 euros, which is approximately 36 billion Jamaican dollars. I always have difficulties to do those calculations, but I think it's important because many people do not really understand when we're talking about euro, about how much it is. The idea is to help strengthening, in particular, the capacity of the Jamaica Business Development Corporation to provide gender-sensitive, very important, and inclusive services to MSME clusters in accordance with internationally accepted food safety management practices. More importantly, the project will directly address constraints faced by those micro and small agro-processors by providing training and capacity building for primary producers and the agro-processing cluster on good agriculture processes and good manufacturing practices. The training will also include brand development and market promotion. And the new project will further seek to contribute to Jamaica's efforts in enhancing food security, promoting gender equality, ensuring compliance with environmental standards and sustainable approaches to trade. The project that is being launched today is part of a series of projects by the standby facilities. I've already mentioned the other one, which is being implemented in Jamaica, but there are a number of those projects ongoing and coming. And they play an essential role in the European Union strategy to support the implementation of the Economic Partnership Agreement, the EPA, which has been mentioned before, and also the CARICOM Single Market and Economy. Because, I mean, I think we can all recognize or say that since we have this agreement in force, we haven't really seen all the potential fully developed. So the European Union remains extremely committed, and we are now and also in the future thinking about further supporting the actors that are really important and that actually are the ones that should benefit more from these market openings, not only to market more with the European Union, although I do think that that is important, but also within the region, which is probably easier than our EU market that we all know is a rather difficult market to get through. So let me say that this project as well is part of a bigger venture. I've been talking about the standby facilities, but in fact, under the current programming period, we have a support program for the implementation of the EPA running of some 22 million euros. And for that, I haven't even tried to do the currency, how do you say, calculation, because I wouldn't be able to pronounce the amount. But indeed, I think it's very important that we're working on you know, particular smaller project, but that all together that we work on the implementation of the entire EPA, which includes also IPR, intellectual property rights. It includes technical barriers to trade, sanitary, phytosanitary measures, which is one of those headaches that many exporters are confronted with, but really important. Capacity building in the areas of competition, public procurement, and customs and trade facilitation. Anyhow, I'm very happy that we're launching this project here in Jamaica. And I would like to conclude my remarks by reiterating the commitment of the European Union. It has also been mentioned by one of the previous speakers. Also in the future, we are now working on the program in 2021-2027. We would very much like to continue to support the region and the countries of the regions individually as well, to ensure that the EPA is in the end beneficial to all the subscribers. We're looking forward to the positive outcomes and the lessons learned from the implementation of this new project. And I hope that indeed, as it was said by Mr. Best, it will help the agro MSMEs not only to survive, but to thrive. And finally, happy anniversary to your association, and happy anniversary to you. Very much liked the approach that we were presenting, and also the enthusiasm that I could hear, your dedication. I wish you all the best. They are very important ingredients for success, and I'm confident that you will be able to show that at the end of the day. Thank you so much, and thank you so much to you as well.
Sincerest thanks, Her Excellency. We do appreciate the sustained support the EU has provided to the standby facility, which has brought us to where we are today. You have our commitment at the JBDC. In no uncertain terms, we will deliver. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, policy informs our work and sets the stage and the direction for national action. The ministry, with responsibility for business development, continues to influence our strategic direction. We are pleased, therefore, to invite our own minister, the Honorable Dr. Norman Dunn, Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, to advance the views of the government of Jamaica by delivering this morning's feature address. Minister.
Good morning, everyone, and pleasant good morning, Suzette. I mean, Ms. Valerie, you know, you have a treasure in Suzette, right?
Yes, I do.
Golden voice.
I know.
I've spoken about Suzette at our ministry, so don't be surprised if we. Don't be surprised. Suzette's name has come up, I can tell you. Her Excellency, Marianne Van Steen, who I met recently. It was a pleasure meeting you, and here we are again. Head of Delegation of the European Union. Our Permanent Secretary, who I believe is online, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Mrs. Sancia Bennett Templer, our Chief Technical Director of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Ms. Michelle Parkins, Director, Development Corporation Unit, CARIFORA Directorate, CARICOM Secretariat, Mr. Desmond John, Caribbean Development Bank, Mr. Daniel Best, our dearest mother, Ms. Valerie Vieira, CD, JP, and of course, our project beneficiary, Ms. Ivy Gordon, and I'm sure Minister Montague must be very pleased with you guys in Jeffertown, and I'm sure that he would like me to convey his best wishes and the fact that you're also celebrating 30 years anniversary. I mean, Minister Montague is very proud of his constituents, I can tell you that. Of course, MIG team, who might be online, members of the media, special invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Ms. Vera mentioned that when the pandemic came, we moved from panic to passion. And for persons, Her Excellency, if you're following the news in Jamaica, the pandemic, the first case we had was, I think it was March 10th in Jamaica. And of course, you know, everybody was very concerned and still is very concerned. But if you would have followed the news, you'd realize that Jamaica has never closed its borders completely. We have managed the pandemic so well because of that passion that we have. And we, as I think as Mr. John might have mentioned, Brand Jamaica, we have this indomitable spirit in Jamaica that we don't allow anything to shake us easily. The pandemic is here, and we are subject to hurricanes and these tropical cyclones, but we are able to rebound with passion, stronger and faster. And I believe this is what has characterized us here in Jamaica. Again, if you look at our statistics, and if you look at how the government has approached the pandemic, we approach it in a very systematic way. We recognize who will be significantly affected, and this is 50 years and over. And although we have not gotten significant supplies of vaccine, what we did, we targeted the population that we believe is the most vulnerable. The government also pivot well with the budget, because what we did is we recognized the vulnerability of persons and companies, including the MSMEs. And we switched around the budget so that we could target those persons so we could help them to ride out the pandemic. And what we did, especially with the MSMEs, we created in the budget a $5 billion component geared specifically to the MSMEs, including the agro-processors. We also pivot at our Exim Bank with another $5 billion specifically directed to the value chain and the supply chain components of the business sector in Jamaica. And in that pivot with the government in the $5 billion program, there is a $1 billion component called Go Digital to allow persons to transition to the digital economy with a $200,000 grant money, Ms. Gordon, grant, and also an $800,000 component at 2% interest rate, 2%.
You'll have to tell me about that.
Well, I'm telling you, 2%. But also the Exim Bank recently launched another component, which is $200 million at, I believe it was 4%. It was 4%, Ms. Vera? 4.5%. Ms. Gordon again.
I'm listening now.
4.5%
And writing that.
at the Exim Bank. And there's another component that is coming on board. Incidentally, that $200 million component, the MSMEs and in particular, the small and micro, they could get a maximum up to $15 million at that 4.5%. $15 million. Nowhere else, no commercial bank, no development bank, nobody has offered that. And it shows the commitment of this government to the MSME sector. Not only that, there's another component that's coming up that will allow so we spoke about the small and micro, so the medium-sized enterprise now will be able to get another component up to $25 million. I know there's classification of who is small, who is medium, who is micro, in terms of your size of business and the amount of persons you employ. The point I'm making is that we here in Jamaica, we seize the opportunity and we recognize that though a pandemic is here, we have to ensure that our people will have access to loans and services that will ensure that we recover stronger and faster. Not only that, the way how we have structured our pivot to the pandemic, and everybody knows it, in most countries, every sector is affected by the pandemic. Not to say that they're not affected here in Jamaica, but what we saw in Jamaica is the flip in the construction sector. The construction sector has grown almost 8 to 10% during the pandemic. Our cement production is at its highest level in the history of Jamaica. Our BPO sector was impacted significantly in the initial stage of the pandemic. We employed about 45,000 persons in the business processing outsourcing sector. And it was affected. I mean, persons had to pivot to work from home, reduce size in the buildings that they BPOs. But the number fell a bit to about 30,000 shared between working at home and in the physical space of those companies. But what has happened since then? The sector has grown back to 45 million and growing. And we're still in the pandemic. To show that we were able to convert our panic and utilize passion to ensure that we could sustain our sector. I believe it was Mr. John. Mr. John, I believe, that mentioned that the pandemic has shown that the over-reliance on any one sector can be a challenge. And of course, Jamaica relies, like most of our Caribbean sisters and brothers, on tourism. But what we did again in the pandemic is that we recognized that the tourism sector, which is our leading foreign exchange earner, would have been significantly affected. What we did, we looked at the landscape and said, no, we can't allow, because of a pandemic, that we will not have a tourism sector. We created what is called a resilient corridor. A resilient corridor to allow anybody who wanted to come to Jamaica from the countries that we allowed air traffic to be able to vacation in Jamaica just as any other time in that resilient corridor. And we were so successful, and is still successful, that we have not had a case of transmission of the coronavirus in our resilient corridor because of the protocol that was established by the Ministry of Health, the government, with all our stakeholders and all our partners, to ensure that we manage the situation well. We recognize from scientific evidence what this pandemic is about, how it's transmitted, how can we protect ourselves. And as you can see, we practice the protocol religiously. We wear a mask. Once we're indoor, we wear a mask. And we try to abide by the social distancing. But I am very completely from what I was asked to present today. I can tell you that completely. Because I believe it's important for us to recognize how well we have done in Jamaica. And we want to say to our partners, whether it's in CARIFOR and CARICOM or our EU partners, that partner with us. Partner with us. Because the strength of Jamaica, the strength of brand Jamaica, the strength of our people will show you that it is worthwhile to partner with us. We are one of those countries and one of those people that we don't say no to anything, and we don't let any little issue pull us off our track. We have what we call fixity of purpose. And this government, under the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, is determined to ensure that Jamaicans achieve the potential that we have. And we are going to achieve it with a pandemic or outside of a pandemic. Because we believe that the life that we want to live and what we want to transmit to our people here in Jamaica is one that we will rise above any circumstances that we're presented with. I want to say, however, that I hope your journey here will be one, and you will recognize that we are like this. We're effervescence in our character, right? We are driven. We're intrinsically driven. We're not driven because we want some development assistance or whatever. No. We're intrinsically driven, and the Jeffertown Association shows that 30 years that they're intrinsically driven. Whether we get assistance or not, we are gonna go. And we want to say to you that we look forward to much more partnership, far greater than the 200,000 euros that you mentioned, because I believe that you will not be disappointed with how we go about doing things and how we try to achieve the development goals that you would have set and the European Union would have set with your projects, that we show that we can attain those development goals. So thank you very much for your assistance, and we look forward to much more assistance. We look forward to continued cooperation with our brothers and sisters in CARICOM I mean, if you travel any of these CARICOM countries, you realize that we are just the same people anywhere you go. And we have been good stewards of this partnership in CARICOM, and we want to continue to strengthen this partnership. And we believe that with your assistance and other developmental assistance from other countries, that we can continue to strive and thrive. And we will continue to move from any planet that we have with the passion that we have as we grow and develop in Jamaica, attaining our goals, not just the goals set by the United Nations, but the internal goals that we have here for ourselves in Jamaica, that we will continue to recover faster and stronger from this pandemic. Thank you very much.
And the minister said intrinsically driven. It reminded me of the JBDC team. That's what we are, intrinsically driven. I am often amazed at the things that this team has accomplished. Just a small government agency led by a lady and supported by a male deputy. You know yourself, Mr. Davis. All right. This project is in good hands. We are intrinsically driven. Minister, we are encouraged by your sentiments today, and the JBDC will continue to support the vision you so clearly articulated. With that, we conclude as we close, and I extend deep appreciation to you all for joining us today. Continue to stay safe and have a wonderful day.